Hidden Madness, an African story by Ori. This Sidechic turned a beautiful family into a horror story, and it began with a pot of egusi soup and a tray of oranges. Once upon a time, the A.S.O family was beloved and admired in town. They lived in the biggest house in the street with 2 little boys. Women envied Evelyn for marrying a wonderful man like Emeka, who showered her with gifts and attention. The couple attended church events together, wearing matching outfits. No one ever heard them quarrel. They always brimmed with love. But beneath it all lay a very rotten core, a part of them they could never reveal to the world. The A.S.O had one maid named Stella, who'd been with them for years. Evelyn always complimented Stella. She said her family would fall apart if it weren't for the maid. Stella came from a family that saw things that shouldn't be there. And even if she'd spent years running from it, sometimes it crept up on her. And on the evening that changed everything, Stella was in the kitchen, cooking for the new mistress of the house. His wife, Evelyn, was now bedridden, but Emeka didn't care. His mistress had come to stay. When the soup spoon slipped from Stella's hands and crashed to the tiles, cold fear in her body told her something was very wrong. Although the new woman always smiled and was kind, something about her made Stella's skin crawl. She cleaned her hands and said a small prayer, then waited for her to come into the kitchen. The egusi soup on the stove continued to boil, bubbling steadily, but the smell in the kitchen had changed. It was rotten. Stella. The soft voice came from behind her, calm and gentle, carrying none of the irritation Stella expected. Her shoulders stiffened. She wiped her damp hands on her wrapper, her heart beginning to pound. She did not turn at once. She whispered a prayer under her breath, fingers brushing the cross at her neck. "Stella," the woman called again, closer this time. "Are you all right?" Stella turned. Ella stood behind her, smiling with polite concern. She was as beautiful as ever, her black dress clinging gracefully to her figure, her skin glowing under the kitchen lights. Everything about her was perfect, too perfect. Stella's eyes dropped instinctively to the floor, and her breath caught in her chest. The shadow beneath Ella's feet stretched unnaturally across the tiles. The ghostly appearance widened, warped, and ended abruptly, headless, its edges jagged and alive. Stella screamed and staggered backward, crashing into the counter. The pot rattled on the stove as she fled the kitchen, sobbing and calling out. She found Evelyn, her boss, sprawled on the living room couch, her face pale, her breathing shallow. "Madam," Stella cried, falling to her knees. "Please, that woman in this house is not what she seems. I saw her." Evelyn laughed weakly, shaking her head. "You village people see demons everywhere," she said. "Ella is the only peace this house has known in years." Stella pleaded, her words tumbling over one another. She spoke of shadows, of smells, of fear crawling up her spine. Evelyn's face hardened. "You're jealous," she snapped. "Which stories in this day and age? What nonsense." "Ma," Stella started. "We won't be needing a maid anymore. Ella is enough. Pack your things." She ordered Stella out of the house immediately, threatening to call her husband if she refused. Stella begged until her throat burned, but Evelyn would not listen. As Stella fled through the gate, she looked back once. Ella stood in the doorway, no longer smiling. Her face had twisted into something dark and horned, eyes blazing with hatred so intense Stella felt it press against her chest like a physical force. Stella ran until her legs gave out. 3 months earlier, the morgue where Emeka worked was always cold, the kind of cold that crept into bones and lingered. Emeka wiped sweat from his brow as he pushed the last body of the night onto the slab. The sharp scent of disinfectant mixed with decay clung to his clothes. He concluded business for the day, dropped the call and smiled widely. All of a sudden, a piercing sound sliced through the air. Emeka spun around, heart hammering, but the stiff bodies lay still. He exhaled slowly, rubbing his temples. Fatigue was getting to him again. He drove home late, hands heavy on the steering wheel, his eyes clouded with tiredness. The road was quiet, stretching endlessly ahead of him. Chills that had nothing to do with his AC crawled up his arms. He turned up the music, letting the bass pound through his chest, keeping him awake. Still, his eyelids drooped. A scream tore through the night, followed by a heavy thud. Emeka slammed the brakes and shot out of the car, his heart in his throat. He ran toward the sound, his shoes pounding against the asphalt, dread blooming in his chest. A little boy stood by the roadside, tossing oranges into a tray, his small hands moving frantically. Relief nearly buckled Emeka's knees. "Buy oranges," the boy squeaked. Emeka opened his mouth, but just then, a woman rushed forward, her voice sharp with fear. "What are you doing to my son?" Emeka turned and forgot how to breathe. She was tall and radiant, her skin glowing faintly under the streetlight. Her curves were soft and full, her black dress simple but elegant. She looked unreal, like something placed too carefully into the night. He stammered an apology, explaining how tired he was, how he thought he'd heard something terrible. The boy clung to her, unharmed, smiling brightly. To Emeka's surprise, the woman smiled back at him, warm, forgiving. Her name was Ella. Something shifted inside his chest, something he thought had died years ago. He bought all the oranges, pressing far too much money into the boy's hands, and drove home whistling. The moment he entered his house, the lights blazed on and Evelyn shoved him back. "You shameless cheat. You followed another witch, right? Look at the time. You dog." "It was one time," Emeka replied under his breath, shame and guilt curling in his stomach. "I worked late, that's all." Memories plagued him and he couldn't sleep that night. It was Ella's face that eventually gave him peace. The next day he went looking for Ella. They met often after that, always on the same road. Eventually, he convinced her to go out with him. When she asked if he was single, he lied without hesitation. She told him, "I'm asking because I've suffered in the hands of married men. I know their wives can be vicious. Please, if you're married, we can remain friends. Just don't lie to me." Emeka gulped and promised to always tell the truth. He told her he would never hurt her like those married men. With Ella, Emeka felt lighter. His business flourished. His temper softened. He ignored his wife's bitterness and played with his children like a man reborn. He fell deeply in love. Emeka's love for Ella did not announce itself loudly. It crept in quietly, disguising itself as peace. He found himself smiling more often, whistling on his way home, greeting his children with an enthusiasm that surprised even him. He ignored Evelyn's rants more easily now. Her words slid off him, dull and distant, while his mind replayed Ella's laughter, her gentle touch, the way she listened to him as though every word he spoke mattered. Business flourished in ways he could not explain. Deals closed faster. Money flowed steadily. Everywhere they went together, people stared openly at the beautiful woman on his arm. They would even ask him sometimes, "Why are you smiling so much?" He would only laugh harder. Emeka walked taller for it, filled with a confidence he had not felt in years. One evening, sitting across from Ella in a softly lit restaurant, Emeka felt something inside him finally snap into place. The urge to hold back dissolved. He pushed his chair back, stood, and dropped to one knee right there between tables and murmuring diners. His voice trembled as he told her he loved her and asked her to be his girlfriend. His heart pounding with anticipation. Ella stared at him, eyes glistening. Slowly, she nodded, tears spilling over her lashes. When Emeka rose, he noticed the strange silence around them. People were watching, but no one clapped. He laughed awkwardly and clapped for himself, urging them on, but the moment passed without celebration. Shrugging it off, he took Ella's hand and felt only joy. He ignored the buzz of voices in the normally quiet restaurant. They should have celebrated him after all. That night, he slept with Ella for the first time. Ella exceeded every expectation he had carried into the room with him. She consumed his attention, his senses, his restraint. Emeka left her apartment dazed, grinning like a man who had stumbled into a dream he never wanted to wake from. On his way home, he stopped at a grocery store near his street to buy snacks for his children. As he reached for items on the shelf, he heard an aggressive spraying sound behind him. Turning, he saw the shop Mama Uju fumbling with an air freshener, spraying it repeatedly into the air. Emeka frowned and sniffed his shirt. He smelled clean, fresh. He shrugged it off, paid for his items, and headed home. He barely had time to call out for his sons before frantic screams echoed from inside the house. Panic seized him instantly. Dropping the bags, Emeka rushed inside and found Evelyn collapsed on the living room floor, her body limp and unresponsive. The maids and children spoke over one another in terrified voices. Emeka acted quickly, lifting her into the car and speeding to the hospital. Tests followed, then more tests. No doctor could explain what was wrong. After 3 days, Evelyn was discharged with no answers. She lay weak and feverish at home for a full week, her body burning and shaking as Emeka hovered, weighed down by guilt. During that time, he did not see Ella. He only texted her occasionally. His thoughts split between fear for his wife and longing for the woman who made him feel alive. When Evelyn finally began to recover, Emeka returned to Ella without hesitation. Within 2 days, Evelyn suffered a heart attack. She survived barely. Emeka's attachment to Ella deepened into obsession. He could not imagine his life without her. The secret pressed heavily on his chest until he finally confessed the truth, that he was married with 2 sons. Ella's reaction was explosive. She screamed, shattered objects in the apartment he had rented for her, called him a liar who had used her. She demanded to know how she was supposed to live as a hidden woman, unable to marry, unable to claim him fully. Then she broke down. Her sobs tore through Emeka. He hugged her, promising that everything would be all right. He would make things right. Work suffered. Emeka's concentration faltered so badly that he nearly made a fatal mistake at the morgue. That was when he decided he would take control of his life completely. That night at dinner, Emeka announced his decision. The children would be getting a new stepmother. Anyone who disagreed was free to leave. Evelyn said nothing. She only cried quietly, her body still weak, her spirit too worn to fight. She could not leave. From that day on, Evelyn's health deteriorated steadily. One illness followed another, her strength draining away. Emmanuel, her first son, cared for her as best he could, helpless and angry, unable to challenge his father. When Ella moved into the house, Emmanuel watched closely. To his confusion, she was kind. She never raised her voice at Evelyn, no matter how sharp Evelyn's words became. She cooked delicious meals, laughed easily, and played with the children. Even his younger brother liked her. Within a week of Ella's arrival, the maid ran screaming from the kitchen. Stella burst into the living room, her wrapper slipping as she clutched her chest, her face pale with terror. Words tumbled out of her mouth in frantic bursts. Something about Ella being a monster, about her putting things into the food, about danger sitting calmly in their home. Evelyn stared at her, then began to laugh. "Have you lost your mind?" Evelyn asked. "This woman has been nothing but good to this family." She turned on Stella, accusing her of jealousy, of witchcraft, of trying to destroy the only peace that had come into her home in years. The maid tried to insist, to warn her, but Evelyn's voice grew harsher with every word. "You have served this house for over a decade," Evelyn said coldly. "And this is how you repay me." She ordered Stella out immediately and warned her never to return. Stella fell to her knees, begging her to do something. Evelyn refused. Even for the sake of her children, she couldn't see anything wrong. Stella ran into the children's rooms, drawn by a force she could not explain. "Leave now while you can," a hidden voice thundered. "This is your last chance." Stella stopped short because at the center of the children's room, both boys were tied up next to each other. They appeared to be asleep, dressed in rags. Yet she could swear she heard them playing outside. She rushed to them, but her hands went through their bodies. She opened her mouth to scream for help while searching for her phone, but that thing stole her voice. "Leave!" Stella grabbed what she could and ran through the house. She began to notice things. Every wall was covered in thick smelly mold. The food on the dining reeked of rot. Some parts of the ceiling started to cave. She rubbed her eyes and everything seemed normal again, until she came into the foyer. Right there at the entrance, she saw Emeka, tied up in a chair and screaming with pain as an invisible hand flogged him. He was covered in sores. Stella tried to call for help again, but the image was gone. Ran. As she reached the gate, she turned back one last time and saw her. Ella stood at the edge of the hallway, no longer wearing the gentle smile that charmed everyone else. Her face had transformed into something dark and monstrous, crowned with large horns, her eyes glowing with hatred so thick it felt like heat. The air around her vibrated with malice. Stella fled, her feet kicking up dust as she ran. She feared for the children more than anything. Trembling, she pulled out her phone and called Evelyn's mother, the woman who had raised her like her own daughter, the woman who had brought her into the city and helped put her through school. The line connected. "Who is this?" the woman asked. Stella nearly dropped the phone. "It's me, Mama." "Stella, please, you have to come to town. Something terrible is happening to your daughter." There was a pause, then a sharp reply. "I don't know who you are. Never contact me again." The line went dead. Stella stared at the phone in disbelief. Desperation drove her from house to house, begging neighbors for help. None of them remembered Ella. Some did not even remember Emeka having a second woman. A few asked Stella who she was and why she was speaking nonsense about a known madman. The aged police officer asked, "Which Emeka? That madman that was always speaking to himself." "I was in a restaurant once, when he suddenly knelt down as if he was proposing. He hugged himself and even mimed kissing. They moved out years ago and no one has heard from them since." "Years," Stella repeated. "Impossible." Her mind began to fracture under the weight of it. She traveled back to her hometown and sought out a powerful Dibia. The moment he laid eyes on her, he shouted at her to leave before whatever clung to her followed her into his shrine. Stella fell to her knees, begging him to explain. She cried about the kids who might die if she didn't help. "You carry special protection," the Dibia said. "That's why she has not attacked." The Dibia broke off as his eyes rolled back. A female, thunderous voice rolled out of his slack mouth. "I chose to keep you alive so that you can tell my tale." Stella jumped in fear, but was held in place by an invisible force. Suddenly, visions that didn't belong to her flooded her mind. She saw Ella as a beautiful young woman from many years ago, fall in love with Emeka, while he was already married. When she got pregnant with a boy, Emeka promised to do right, and take her as a second wife. She was happy, even if she was a little disappointed to be a second wife. She promised to make his home very peaceful. Everyone would love her. But one night, he told her they were going to a private beach. When her back was turned, he attacked her with a baseball bat and took her life. Then he made the heinous choice of selling her body parts to a black market, along with the little boy in her womb. Her spirit couldn't rest, nor could the spirits of every person he ever sold their parts. All of them, through Ella, only came back to take what was theirs. After she died, Ella found that it was Emeka's wife, Evelyn, who instigated her death. She found out about their affair and swore that she'd expose Emeka's black market business. Evelyn didn't care that it was her who brought all the contacts Emeka needed to start selling people's bodies. She just wanted Ella's death. Burning with hatred, Ella made Emeka slowly go mad without his knowledge. People couldn't see her, but he believed they did. The maid saw Emeka laughing alone, eating alone, wearing rags, running alone on the beach, all while his body was rotting. They made him a dead man walking. They took away his ability to seek help. She made sure his wife fell sick every time Emeka thought they slept together, causing her untold suffering. 3 months ago she tested him once again and he failed. Emeka invited danger into his home. The disloyalty, lust and greed granted Ella the powers of the dead. The voice returned. He and his family will reap that harvest forever. Stella came back to her senses, with goosebumps covering her skin. She shed tears for the poor girl who was taken so young, for the baby who didn't get to breathe. She begged the entity to save the children. They weren't a part of it. The voice laughed and warned her never to return, then vanished. She had served monsters without knowing it. The Dibia chased her away, warning her never to return. But Stella could not forget the children. When she returned to the city, she saw a massive banner announcing a crusade by a powerful man of God. Taking it as a sign, she fought her way through layers of assistants and church members until she was finally heard. They went to the house together. As they arrived, the gate swung open and the children ran out, laughing. "Auntie Stella!" they shouted, wrapping their arms around her. Stella nearly collapsed in relief. The pastor frowned, scanning the compound. "Are you sure this is the place?" Before she could answer, one of the church members scoffed. "No one has lived here for years, Pastor. I told you she was confused. The only unexpected horror is the abysmal state of this mansion." Stella blinked with her mouth open in shock. The stunning mansion she just left was now reduced to rubbles. "The house is haunted," Stella shouted. They just shook their heads, gazing at her with pity. Stella looked down at the children clinging to her and screamed. Their bodies were becoming transparent. "Auntie Stella," Emmanuel called, his voice fading. She reached for them, but her hands passed through empty air. One by one, the boys vanished before her eyes. Silence fell over the compound. Nothing remained. In the back of her mind, Stella could hear the terrible, cold, mocking laughter. You never know how you will reap the fruits of your labor. Stay true to yourself and your family, or invite catastrophe into your home.